a lot of scientists are supportive of, especially psi phenomena, such as telepathy. The evidence for telepathy is very strong. But there are a small group of skeptics who often appear on TV programs, and but it tends to be the same group of, say, 3 or 4 people who are constantly on everything. And that does worry me slightly, because you're dealing with, it's not really very proportionate, you know, to have the opinions of such a small group constantly repeated. And a lot of the scientists on the other side of the coin are not featured at all. I mean, there's actually people like Brian Josephson, who's won the Nobel Prize for Physics, who is a complete supporter of psi phenomenon and psychic abilities. And he's even written a theory on how they could work, called biological utilisation of quantum non-locality.
Wow.
Which is quite amazing.
But they're not kind of promoted. Do you think there's a media control around the subject?
I'm not sure whether it's control. I wonder whether it's just the stigma and the kind of,
But do you think it's quite difficult because I have a few friends that are scientists, and they're also very spiritually open. And I wonder how hard it is for them to be open about their spiritual beliefs with other scientists that they work with. I don't know how easy it is for them to...
It's not easy, I don't think. I mean, I know scientists who are in the closet, as it were. And are interested in a whole range of things behind the scenes. But they would... It would be professional suicide in a sense to be too open about it. Especially to go into researching it. Because people like Sheldrake are constantly attacked. By skeptics and by actually people who don't really know much about his research. So there's a lot.
It's quite tough.
There's a lot of animosity from, but like I say, it's a very small group in general.
But it's so sad because my partner's actually a scientist, and I was very surprised when I met him, and I wasn't open about my spiritual beliefs at all initially, because I'm so used to not being open about them with people I've just met, or with most people, to be honest. And yet, when I was open about it, I realised that he shared many of my beliefs. And he said, actually, if you really read in both areas, you'll be amazed how much overlap there is. And I think that opened my mind up to it even more. And it's quite sad that people that are researching, say, that overlap or whatever you want to call it, do face that kind of attack. But that kind of work, I think, is still really pioneering.
It is definitely pioneering. It's just literally that. I suppose there are people who are on the extremes on the in terms of the psychic side of things, and of course there are frauds out there. So
don't make it any easier.
No. So I think there's a genuine integrity to some of the skeptics. You know, that that they're talking about a particular group of people. You know? But the problem is it seems to tar the scientists who are genuine and serious and doing really good work with the same brush as the scammers on the other end of the spectrum. So that's unfortunate, but I suppose it goes right back in the history of science, the split between science and religion. And a lot of things to do with psychical abilities or spirituality are just lumped into the religion category. Even though now we're getting a much more fluid, much more engaged spirituality that's not about dogma. It's much more about developing ideas and looking at what science is doing and growing from that.
So what's this project at the moment? Is he conducting some sort of research into telepathy?
He's been conducting research into telepathy for quite a while. and there's a new project that I can't say too much about.
Okay, which is going to make us want to know even more about it.
So there's a new project which is going to be an installation. It's going to be an installation project that will also be a science project.
Wow, I would love to see that.
And there probably will be an opportunity for people to get involved with it.
Okay.
Quite soon. So
brilliant. So
I'll keep
us posted. those of us listening to this, wanting to find out more or get involved, how can people do that? Can they do that through the website?
They can contact me through the website.
Okay, so we'll talk about we'll give out your website details as well, so people can do that. So you can't really talk too much about that, but do you personally, do you have quite a strong sense of telepathy?
I'm interested in the whole area of psychical work, really.
Yeah.
I work with all of that, and yeah, with some people especially, I do seem to be able to work telepathically more. I'm going to be taking part in some of the trials.
Okay.
But I suppose it's more the remote viewing OBE side of things that really is the stuff that inspires me most.
Do you think there's an overlap in that sense? If the fact that you've obviously naturally been open to OBEs, and then you've consciously opened yourself up more, do you think that then does give you a greater ability to tap into telepathy in other areas?
Well, I kind of see...
You're sort of more open than the average person, I suppose.
I kind of see... I don't really divide them up in a sense. I think we divide them up for the benefit of language in a way.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But that's why I like the word psi,
because
that sort of covers everything. But back to like what I was saying before about different types of people, I just think that some people are more visual, some people there's different types of people. So, but telepathy is a strong one because obviously humans, we have this interaction that's we have strong bonds with each other. If I'm sort of saying, let's do a remote viewing of a random building 20 miles away, there's no real emotional bond or impetus in order for you to really do that. Whereas when you're talking about telepathy, the two people involved might be strongly linked. Even family, mother and daughter is often a very strong telepathic link.
I often have it with my mum that we literally will try and phone each other at the exact same second, get each other's voicemail, leave a voicemail, try me again, get another voicemail. And that's actually quite frequent that happens.
Well, that's one of the areas that's being looked at. Telephone telepathy, because a huge proportion of people will say that they have that, they sense he's going to be on the end of the phone.
You just know.
And
or you pick your phone up to ring someone and they ring at that moment.
Like
I have that all the
time. Version.
So that's really, I just think it's so interesting. I remember reading about this as a child and reading this theory that in certain countries people would still be more in touch with their telepathy, and of course they give the classic examples of tribes in Africa or tribes in Peru in the rainforest. And this concept, I remember reading as a child, basically just saying, well, we just rely so heavily on technology in the Western world that we're kind of, that part of us is dying because we don't need it. Whereas people that need it more and rely on it more are using it more. And it's so simplistic, but I do wonder if that's really made a difference as well, the fact that we...
Well, I do think stripping away some of the influences that aren't beneficial definitely helps with working in these sorts of things. But I mean, in the tribal context, they talk about psycho-navigation. Tribes people essentially find their way through the forest, and they find their way to particular places that they need to get to, almost through a psychic sense.
That's incredible.
And almost communicate with each other as well. I mean, I haven't looked into the studies of it and stuff, but
it's pretty
definitely
interesting.
an area.
It's a huge, huge area. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Charmé organisation.